Hey folks, I am glad to welcome you to the Captain Herman channel. And you know that sometimes, if we buy some cool device, we review it and tell you how successful this solution is. Today, we are going to talk about Ozonator, and this device, in my opinion, should be on every boat. And in general, in principle, in every house, especially if you live in a humid climate. When mold and other obscenities appear on the boat, such as ants, beetles, mosquitoes, and other things. Therefore, today's issue will be about the Ozonator. What it is and how to use it. Let's look at it in detail in our video today. Let's go. Let's briefly consider what an Ozonator is. As you have already understood, this is a device that produces ozone. If you have seen a thunderstorm, you have felt such a specific smell when lightning passes. And by the way, if you are standing near the copper, then the copper is the device that also makes ozone. And this smell, which is located near the copper, is exactly what ozone is. In small quantities, it is even useful. There are all sorts of treatments for various diseases that are done with ozone. But we are not talking about homeopathic amounts of it in the atmosphere, but rather a powerful production that will destroy all living things in its path. Ozone is a very large oxidizer, and due to the fact that it is toxic to a living organism in large quantities, it is a very good thing to clean all your rooms from starting from an unpleasant smell. You know, if you live in a humid climate, when you haven't used things in the closet for a long time, you open the closet and things smell damp. So this thing kills this dampness. In addition, it kills all mold, all kinds of midges, ants, beetles, and of course, people cannot be in this room because this oxidant is very dangerous to health. Probably, of course, it is unlikely that you will die from inhaling ozone, but ozone itself in large quantities has a very bad effect on the mucous membranes, irritates the mucous membranes very much, and you can really get a number of big problems. Therefore, you need to use this device very carefully. In other words, it was such a small disclaimer. Let's see, in fact, what kind of device is needed in order for it to work well and efficiently. Because there are a lot of different ozonators on the market, and you need to understand which one you can use. Because there are such amateur ozonators that are put in the office, which smokes a little there. But it is very important to understand the amount of ozone that is produced per hour. And it will depend on it, either it's useful, or it will just clear everything around in its path. We need the second option, because we are not considering the first one. So now let's go to the site, for example, on Amazon, and choose what we need to buy. We climb on Amazon and start looking for an ozonizer. According to this request, a large number of different devices fall out at once. And the most important thing here is not only the price, but the parameters. Because regardless of the price, they can be the same. Here you see 30,000 milligrams is 30 grams. In this case, this is very little. The next 48,000. We need any ozonizer that can make 60 grams per hour. That is 60,000 milligrams. And now you see that it is for $39 or even $32. That is, a larger amount to the price has no correlation. It's just a parameter that you choose. Of course, for your premises, you need to understand how much ozone you need. But from experience, I talked to their shifts. They said that from 60 grams per hour of ozone you need to look, then it all works well. Otherwise, it would just be money thrown away. So we can look further along the specifications. Here there are 80 grams, even there is a larger amount, but it is quite enough from 60 grams. Therefore, when choosing devices, despite their external similarity, choose the right amount so that your disinfection takes place effectively. and destroys everything nasty in the area that you want to clean. Now let's get into the closet and see why we need it. I take out the computer that we had lying there for a long time, probably 6 months, and look at how much there is on it. These white dots are mold, which was formed due to the fact that the device was in a humid room, and accordingly, the humid climate makes it possible to grow everything that is not needed. And we climb into the closet, which is also used in our usual mode. We take out things and understand that there is a smell of dampness, and, in principle, the ozonator will solve this issue. And tonight, we were bitten by mosquitoes, and it means they live somewhere. And probably a great time to get rid of them. And over time, all sorts of small bugs and ants appear on the boat. By the way, there is a bed tick in the beds. This is such a thing that is super small. It feeds on the remnants of the skin there, but nevertheless, sometimes, when their number goes beyond the permissible limits, various allergies may appear. In a humid climate, a lot of things live that should not live. And sometimes you need to clean your premises from all this. Here our box has arrived. It looks as primitive as possible, that is, there is a fan inside. Here it is slightly visible there and actually there. You can even look at the machine itself, which makes ozone. That is, it makes such micromoles and they produce ozone. That is, a timer, a fan, and an ozone generator. You can turn on the timer just without a timer to the position, and it will work until you turn it off. Or you can just wind up the time, and it will tick itself. You can set the timer to an hour. In general, we use this thing somewhere from an hour to 2. So if you want to turn it on for an hour in a small room, then a timer is enough. Well, or just turn it on to the heat position, and it will smoke until you turn it off. So now let's see what else we have here. On this side there is nothing. On this side there is nothing. On this side there is nothing. Well, and actually the resonator. Of the important things, look, we have a power supply current of 220 volts of alternating current. This thing consumes 150 watts. Well, that is quite decent, and that's what's most important. It produces 60 grams of ozone per hour. This is the minimum value that you need in order for this device to work efficiently. If you buy 80 grams, there are 100 grams there, it will work even better. That is more not less. You can take any. But we chose this one because it was optimal from the point of view of delivery and from the point of view of price. Because now it's a little bit cheaper, and maybe it just wasn't there at that moment. I don't know. In general, this device is already in our hands, so let's turn it on now and see how it works, and in general how to use it. So we start working with our premises. The first thing is that we go in and do our back cabin starboard, and this will need to be done with each cabin separately. Because the most important thing is to completely close the cabin, close all the windows. Check all the ventilation so that everything is closed. Well, then we are already starting to use this device actually. That's how it all works for us. So we put it so that there is normal access to the air outlet and entrance. Well, we actually turn it on. And in the heat mode, we will use it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, it doesn't matter. You just need to fill it with ozone actually for such a room. Now there is such a very pleasant smell, and you can see there, here it glows so blue. Well, this is actually how ozone is produced. It blows from the back. You'll see there was such a crack. This he adds even more. That is, he is now entering the mode, and from oxygen, then from the air, he actually makes ozone. Well, and the fan that takes it from here and blows it out there. Everything is very good. Closing it. We check that we don't have air access anywhere. It's closed. Well, that's it. Let's launch it. I set the videos to a time lapse, but unfortunately, it is not clear because it so smoothly drives this ozone into the room that there will be no difference between the first and the last frame. But there is such a small fog in the whole room. Hold your breath. Come in, press the button if it hasn't turned off, and open the windows for ventilation. 10 to 15 minutes and you have a sterile room. Such a serious inconvenience when using the ozonizer is that you need to clean each cabin separately. That is, you can't turn on the ozonizer and open the doors and hope that everything will work well. Therefore, the ozonator needs to be turned on in every room, and once every 2 hours you need to go in, move it to another room. Also close it, and at the same time you can't be on the boat. That is, you need to either go somewhere or sit in a piggy bank. Then come back in 2 hours to turn it on again. In short, you will have such a hassle for the day that you need to go back and forth and turn it on. Of course, the best thing is if you are standing somewhere on a dry dock, then you are doing something on the boat, there on the hull. And at the same time you got up, turned on, disinfected. And in this case it will work normally. But when you need to run back and forth every 1.5 or 2 hours, it's certainly a little uncomfortable. Of the advantages, after you ventilate the room, that is, your ozonator has worked, you open the windows and the room is ventilated. There is nothing left on the walls anywhere. That is, it is completely ventilated. It has ozone done its job. It has cleaned the room. And there will be no unpleasant odors. That is, you come to a room that you count from scratch, has no unpleasant moments, no parasites, no bugs, nothing. Everything will be cleared. But we will have to urinate a little, that is, run back and forth, in order to realize all this. In our case, we have the rear cabins, the central and the front. That is, consider that we need to run the desalination plant 4 times. This is 8 hours of work. Well, that is, accordingly. We need to be somewhere during this time. This is not a very convenient moment, but the result, of course, is very good, and I highly recommend you to buy such a device. It doesn't take up much space. It doesn't cost a lot of money. But sometimes you can use it there once every 6 months. And looking ahead, I want to say that 2 weeks have passed since we last used the ozonizer. There is no mold on the walls or anywhere, and if it appears, we can turn it on. That is, usually about 3 or 4 months is enough for everything to return to its natural state again, and the ozonator will work with it. Therefore, periodically such a maintenance disinfection is very good to do, especially since this ozonizer is even used there in hospitals to clean instruments. That is, it really works well. Everyone, friends, I hope this issue was useful for you. We told you something interesting about the devices we use. I hope this will help you in the future. You will take over our experience of using various devices that we use, and you will have a clean, beautiful, and well-groomed button. Subscribe to the channel, check the bell. Next week, there will be something interesting again. See you later. For now.